There's something about a recording that makes horror feel different. A photograph can lie. A memory can distort. But a recording, a voice, a signal, a sound captured on tape or wire or digital file, that's evidence. That's something you can play back. Tonight, I have 3 stories. 3 real recordings that people wish they had never found. Let's begin. My name is Claire. That's not her real name, but that's what I'll call her, because she asked me to. Claire grew up in a small house in rural western Pennsylvania. The kind of house where nothing ever changed. The same floral wallpaper for 30 years. The same avocado green refrigerator humming in the kitchen. The same answering machine sitting on the hallway table like it had always been there and always would be. It was one of those old cassette tape machines. A white plastic Panasonic, big as a brick, with a little red blinking light that meant someone had called. Her mother bought it in the early 90s and never saw a reason to replace it. "It works, doesn't it?" she used to say. That was enough for her. Claire's mother passed away in the spring 3 years ago. A Tuesday morning, quietly, in her sleep. The kind of death that people say is peaceful, which Claire found both comforting and somehow unbearable. She drove the 4 hours from Pittsburgh the same afternoon, let herself in with the spare key she'd kept for 20 years, and stood in the hallway for a long time just breathing. The red light on the answering machine was blinking. She assumed it was nothing. A telemarketer, the insurance company, the pharmacy calling about a prescription that no longer mattered. She pressed play without really thinking. Static. Then, breathing. That was all at first. Just breathing. Slow and slightly labored. The way someone sounds when they're very tired or very cold. Claire stood in the hallway and thought, wrong number. She waited for whoever it was to hang up. They didn't hang up. After maybe 15 seconds, a voice spoke, and Claire's hand went to the wall to steady herself. It was her mother's voice. Not a recording of her mother. Not a voicemail she had sent herself. Her mother's voice, in real time, on a call logged by the machine at 6:14 inches the morning, which was, according to the hospital report Claire received later, approximately 40 minutes before her mother's body was found. The message was only 17 seconds long. Claire has listened to it hundreds of times. She has let 3 different people hear it. Her brother, her friend Denise, and a neighbor who had known her mother for decades. All 3 said the same thing. That's her. What did the voice say? First,
"Tell your brother I found the photograph. He'll know which one."
then,
"Don't be frightened. It doesn't hurt."
and then the line went quiet. Claire called the phone company within the week. A technician explained with visible discomfort, she said, that the call had originated from her mother's own landline. The very phone in the bedroom where her mother's body was later found. The call lasted 41 seconds in the network logs. The answering machine captured 17. What was said in the other 24 seconds? No one will ever know. Claire's brother, when she told him about the photograph, went pale. He didn't explain what it meant. He still hasn't. He said only, "Delete the message." She didn't delete it. It's still on that white Panasonic cassette, in a house that is now hers by inheritance. The red light doesn't blink anymore. But sometimes, she says, when she's in the hallway late at night, she hears the machine click. The way it clicks when it's checking for a signal. She hasn't pressed play again. She's not sure she needs to. Mara was 34 years old, 8 weeks postpartum, and by her own description, completely exhausted in the specific, particular way that only new parents understand. She lived with her husband Tom in a 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-rise building in Columbus, Ohio. The baby, a boy, 7 pounds at birth, named Oliver, slept in the 2nd bedroom, 6 steps down the hallway from theirs. Close enough that on quiet nights, without any monitor at all, she could hear him breathe. But she wanted the monitor anyway. She wanted to see him. They'd bought a video baby monitor, one of those wireless ones with a small LCD parent unit and a camera that clipped to the crib rail. It broadcast on a 2.4 gigahertz frequency, which, as Mara would later learn after many frantic hours of research, was the same frequency range used by dozens of other wireless devices. Routers, cordless phones, neighboring baby monitors. She knew about signal bleed. She'd read about it. She thought she was prepared for it. She was not prepared for what she saw on the 14th night. Oliver was asleep. Tom was asleep. It was 2:40 in the morning, and Mara was awake because she was always awake at 2 in the morning now, sitting up in bed with a monitor in her lap, watching the green-tinted image of her son's chest rise and fall. The screen flickered. She sat up straighter. The image went to static for 2, maybe 3 seconds. And then it came back. But it wasn't Oliver's room anymore. It was another room. Darker. Bigger, by the look of it. No crib. Just what appeared to be a bare floor, and, in the far corner, barely lit by what might have been a streetlight through a curtain, a shape, a figure, standing still. Mara's first thought, and she is very clear about this in the way she tells it, the way you are very clear about your first thoughts in a crisis, was that someone had broken into the wrong room, that the monitor had picked up a signal from somewhere nearby, a neighbor's camera, another device on the same frequency, and what she was looking at was some innocent person standing in their own apartment. The shape didn't move. She watched it for 20 seconds, 30, 40. It just stood there, facing the camera. Mara woke Tom. He looked at the screen. His exact words were, "What the hell is that?" He took the monitor from her and walked down the hall, checking on Oliver, who was fine, sleeping, undisturbed, and then came back. The screen had gone back to static. They told themselves, signal bleed. A neighbor's camera. Someone standing in their own home. They might have let it go. Except that Mara had done something she wasn't fully aware of until the next morning. She had, in her exhausted, frightened state, pressed the record button on the parent unit. The monitor had a micro SD card for overnight recording. She had pressed it automatically, the way you press a button when you need evidence and don't know why yet. She watched the recording in the morning while Oliver napped. The figure was on the recording, clear as anything, standing in that dark room, not moving, facing the camera, for 11 minutes and 40 seconds. The timestamp confirmed it. 2:43 a.m. to 2:54 a.m. But that wasn't the part that made her close the laptop and sit on the kitchen floor. The part that did that was the last 3 seconds of the footage. In the final 3 seconds, the figure moved. Just slightly. It leaned forward, toward the camera, and raised one hand. It waved. They moved out 6 weeks later. They gave the monitor to a donation bin with the SD card removed. Tom said they should throw the card away. Mara said she needed to hold on to it, that she didn't know why, that she just did. As far as I know, she still has it. She has never watched the recording again. This last story is different from the others because it wasn't recorded by accident. It was recorded by professionals who were doing their job in a controlled environment with equipment designed specifically to capture exactly this kind of data, which makes what they captured all the more difficult to explain. In the autumn of 2019, a small environmental survey team contracted by a regional heritage authority was sent to assess a decommissioned coal mine in southern Wales. The mine, I'll call it the Hallow Seam, which is not its real name, had been sealed since 1987, following a partial collapse in the lower tunnels. The survey team's job was straightforward. Go in as far as the structural assessment allowed, take air samples, catalog water ingress, and document the current state of the upper shafts for a preservation report. There were 4 of them. 2 geologists, a woman named Sandra and a man named Reese, a structural engineer, and a technician named Daniel, who was responsible for the audio-visual equipment. Standard documentation kit, cameras, lights, and a directional shotgun microphone for ambient sound capture. The mic, Daniel would later explain, was set at high sensitivity because the team wanted to detect any underground water movement or structural stress sounds, the kind of low-frequency groaning that indicates an unstable tunnel. They entered through the main access gate on a Thursday morning. The upper shafts were clear. The air was bad, but manageable with respirators. They reached Shaft 7, the deepest they were authorized to enter, by early afternoon. Shaft 7 was a vertical drop of about 40 meters, sealed at the bottom by the 1987 collapse. There was a metal grate over the opening, and a rusted safety railing around it. The team photographed it, took their air samples, and moved on. They were in the mine for just over 4 hours in total. Nothing unusual happened, or so they thought. Daniel processed the audio that evening in his hotel room. The shotgun mic had been running the entire time. 4 hours and 11 minutes of ambient underground sound. Dripping water, the occasional creak of old timber supports, the team's own voices and footsteps. And then, at the 3-hour and 44-minute mark, which corresponded, when Daniel checked the timestamps, to exactly the time the team had been standing at Shaft 7, the mic had picked up something else, coming from below the grate, from 40 meters down, in a sealed shaft that had been closed for 32 years. A voice, not clear enough to make out words, not clearly human even, though Daniel, and then Sandra, and then Reese, all independently said, after listening to it multiple times, that it sounded like a person trying to speak. The cadence was wrong. The pitch shifted in ways voices don't normally shift. But the rhythm of it, the spacing, the rise and fall, the way it seemed to pause and restart, matched the pattern of speech. It lasted 8 seconds. The Heritage Authority was notified. They brought in an acoustic analyst who confirmed The sound was not mechanical in origin, not a pressure-related noise, not a water resonance effect. The analyst's written report concluded, with what must have been some discomfort, that the source was consistent with a biological origin, the nature of which cannot be determined from this recording. The shaft was re-inspected the following spring, sealed, intact. Nothing at the bottom but 32 years of rock fall and debris. The recording was filed with the Heritage Authority report. It is not publicly available. Daniel kept a personal copy. He told me that the part that stays with him, more than the sound itself, more than the voice-like quality of it, is something in the 2 seconds right before it starts. Because in those 2 seconds, clearly, unmistakably, you can hear the team walking away from the shaft, their footsteps receding, getting quieter, and then, a half second before the voice begins, a sound that the acoustic analyst didn't comment on, but that Daniel noticed, and Sandra noticed, and that I noticed when he played it for me. A knock from below the grate, 3 times, like something that knew they were leaving, like something that didn't want them to go. Even the darkest stories leave something behind. Stay with me. There are more stories.